Hello ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. I hope you're all well. It's Rock Climbing in the Philippines here. We've had an interesting weekend. Typhoons going through, power cuts, you name it, usual Philippine stuff. Today I'm going to talk about some of the nomenclature, the terms that are used in Southeast Asia, particularly in the Philippines, by transsexuals and gay males to differentiate themselves from each other. Before we go there, thank you very much to all of those who are making it possible for us to survive through their generosity. It's very much appreciated. I will quite happily give you shout outs if you would like, just let me know. We still need that help. We need as much help as we can get. So please go on to one of the funding sites that I will list, and PayPal, Patreon, GoFundMe, Ko-Fi, Coffee. Just send us a little something and we will very much appreciate it, and we'll be able to continue. On with the show. There's something about the way things are in Southeast Asia that many Westerners just don't understand. And I've come across this many times online, so I think it's worth discussing. They don't understand that trans women here in Southeast Asia call themselves gays. They go, but wait a minute, isn't a gay a form of guy, a form of male? No, that's not how it's seen in Southeast Asia, and especially not in the Philippines. Gay doesn't mean here what it means in the West. And that's something you have to kind of get your head around, and it can take a little while. To be gay here means that you have green blood, basically. It means that you're a male who's either attracted to men physically or attracted to appearing to be a woman. Either way, you've got green blood. And in a sense, it kind of swamps the Blanchard dichotomy that we spend so much time talking about. I mean, there are still two distinct types, but both have green blood, so, And the most common types to look at, we'll start with the first distinction, which is between long hairs and short hairs. Now, this is the very first distinction that I learned when I started coming here. Long hair and short hair. And the reason was that I was busy dating a long hair, and her brother, well, her sister later actually, was a short hair. So it was explained to me that these were both exactly the same because they both had green blood. They both either were attracted to men or attracted to the idea of being women. Both of these are categories of green blood, you see. But the real difference was that one group wore their hair long and the other group wore their hair short. And I know that from an essentialist Western point of view, that is like, is that all? Is that all it is? And I thought about this for quite a few years and thinking about how does this all work out? And the fact is, yes, that's all it is. That's the only difference they see between someone who appears as a sort of vaguely, a feminized male, shall we say. That person will have skinny jeans on, or even maybe a sort of pair of slacks, and short hair, possibly of a kind of floppy moppy type, but sometimes more formally short than that, but is still a woman inside because he has green blood, or she has green blood, in fact. And that person is called a short hair. That's short hair. Green blood, but short haired. Long hairs is obvious. They wear their hair long, they wear women's clothes, you employ makeup, they obviously use hormones. We'll come onto that in a moment. And these are called long hairs. And that's the only difference these people see between the two groups. Long hair and short hair. That's it. They're both women inside. They both have green blood. You cannot be a man in this culture if you desire other men. And you cannot be a man if you desire to look like a woman. It's that simple. These are not men. In fact, not hyphen men, right? They're a whole class of people, right, who have green blood. They're not men. They're not women, and they will tell you if you say, "Are you a real girl?" No, I'm a gay. And they'll tell you, no, I'm not a real woman, I'm a gay. They're quite open and direct about it. They know exactly what they are. But they cannot be men. They cannot join male society. If they join male society, they couldn't. It's not possible. Because they see men as sexual targets, not as friends or brothers or people that you do stuff with. And men are fully aware of this. There's no way they're going to let them into that closed men circle any more than they would let women in. They're just not going to do it. And in this sense, I think Southeast Asian culture has significantly greater wisdom than Western culture has showed, where it has allowed women to completely destroy and erase all male spaces. They don't allow that here. The guys say, no, we have our spaces, and they will remain our spaces, which is the way it should be. So you have this distinction between long hair and short hair. And one thing I would say about, which again, a lot of people in the West don't understand this, is that there's a very high chance that whether we're talking about long hairs or short hairs, they're both going to be taking hormones, right? Around about the same level. They're both going to be taking feminizing hormones. So you ask yourself, why does the short hair do that? They're taking hormones, and it's nearly always because they have a familial responsibility to make sufficient money to look after their parents. And so that's what they have to do. They have to appear to be slightly masculine or pass as somewhat masculine in order to have the kind of jobs that would bring in enough money. I mean, if you are in even middle management, it's kind of rare to see a long hair. But I tell you, there's loads and loads of short hairs. And that's how it works. If you want to have that kind of job that will bring that little bit more money, the chances are you're going to have to conform to certain expectations of appearance. I guess, that is certainly, I would say that, I've been coming here for 10 years, and probably 9 would say of that 10 years, I've spent maybe 6 altogether in the Philippines. And I would say that this level of discrimination is disappearing. It's dying back. There's much more openness, and you will now see people who obviously have some sort of management position, and they're long hair. They're very rarely HSTS. And the thing is, of course, you wouldn't know. If an HSTS was sitting in front of you, opening a bank account for you, then how would you know? I mean, how would you know? You can't tell. Unless there's some sort of contextual clue, or she tells you, you will not know. So the ones you're going to clock are the AGPs, as usual, and you'll go, yeah, that's a long hair, that's an AGP long hair. So these are quite important elements of nomenclature, and it's one that it's quite easy to sort of dust it off. I get this thing about Western guys saying, why do the trans women in Southeast Asia call themselves gays? And the reason is that it's the West that has got this all wrong. The West has got it completely backside foremost. This idea that the West has invented, thanks to so-called queer theory, and which is just utter complete nonsense, that sexuality and gender are not the same. They're separated. They're not separated at all. They're exactly the same thing. Two sides of the same thing. Here, that's recognised. If you want men, then that means you have green blood. Therefore, you can't be a man. It's that simple. And after that, how you actually choose to present yourself is very much, down to your personal circumstances and your personal choices. It's not definitive. What's definitive is the possession of this green blood. And the green blood is the desire to be penetrated by a man. And you remember, we're talking about males here. The desire to be penetrated by a man, or the desire to appear to be a woman. Either. And of course, in the West, we recognize this instantly as being the HSTS-AGP dichotomy. But in Asia, that's really not. The differences do exist. And for example, just quickly for example here, quite often because AGPs tend to present later, they'll be called late bloomers. And the person I was talking about earlier, who had a brother who turned into a sister, they were both late bloomers. They were both AGPs, and they transitioned around about the age of 19, 20. Okay, and the younger sister became a pageant queen. That became her career. Had never had sex with a man, indulged in or pursued online activities with men by all means, but that's just a way of getting money. That's basically it. They find themselves sponsors who are happy to be, to give money against being entertained intimately on a regular basis. But the late trouble is that you also get genuine HSDS who are also late bloomers. And in that case, it's usually because, they were always really feminine, and they were very feminine kids, but they lived in families where they simply couldn't actually express it. And so as soon as they leave school, for example, it's like, oh, that's me. I'm growing my hair out, and you lot can go and raffle yourselves. I'm done. They're pretty rare. Generally speaking, the late bloomer, the terminology would be late bloomer for those who are most likely to be AGP and appear between the ages of 16 and 19, prior to which they may well have had girlfriends, prior to which they would have had no desire to consort with men in a sexual manner. They might well have been cross-dressing. That's entirely possible, but they wouldn't be attracted to men in that way. They're attracted to the ideal of feminine beauty. So the other type in that group, when we're looking at splitting things in that way, you have late bloomers, and then there's what I call Batang Baklas. Now, okay, Bakla is sometimes regarded as pejorative, and I'm very sorry, I do not wish to offend people, but it's very difficult to find things that work and that translate easily into English. Bakla is a term used in Luzon, part of Luzon, that's the northernmost island of the Philippines. It's not universal throughout the Philippines, right? But the profile that I'm about to discuss, you'll find that everywhere in Southeast Asia. And this is the one, the Batang Bakla is the one who appears at the age of 4 and is pinching her sister's or mother's makeup, doesn't want to play with the boys, only wants to consort with the girls. When it comes to putting on, schools at show or shows at school rather, or the kind of thing that kids do at the end of the school year, they put on the Parents' Day and stuff like that. They don't want to be in the boys' group. They are absolutely determined they want to be in the girls' group and do the girl dances, and the teachers are like, no, you can't do that. And they're going, but I'm a girl. That's your Batang Bakla. They are aware of themselves as female, or as women, as girls, really early on, but even before they start school. And they're instantly recognizable. Instantly. You know them right away. Obviously, let's be quite clear, these children are very fragile and they have to be protected. But it's still obvious where they're going. And fortunately, this is a culture where a person like that will probably have to face significant resistance from their father, and even worse if it's a stepfather. They're notorious. But once that's passed, once they get older a little bit, particularly once they leave school, it all just goes away because everybody goes, there's nothing you can do. That person has green blood. There's no point in shouting at them. There's no point in hitting her. There's no point in all the nonsense, Just stop, because you can't do anything. And the culture recognizes that that's it. You can't change the person. Fathers in all cultures have significant parental investment in sons, and that's really what's being shown. And unfortunately, sometimes it's shown with significant violence, which is a bad thing. And these young people, these Batang Baklas, are frequently made far more close to their mothers than they might otherwise be because of this. It's like the mother and often the aunts and particularly the grandmother, the Lola, will just protect them and go, no, these men can't touch you. And this, in domestic terms, there's a domestic matriarchy that operates here. Peggy Reeves Sandy calls a modern matriarchy. Men do not argue with their mothers. If mum says, just knock it off, then the chances are the guy will do it. He'll go, right, okay, I'll back off. Anyway, that's enough for that one. That's the nomenclature. You've got long hair and short hair, and late bloomer and Batang Bakla. Okay? And that's it for the Philippines for today. Bye-bye.